Hello, folks. We are going to be starting in just a moment or so. Thanks very much for joining our session. We're just waiting for a couple of other people to jump on, and then we'll get going. We'll be starting about a minute after the top of the hour. For those of you who just jumped on, we're going to be starting in just about a minute. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, I think we'll get started. Looks like we've got a number of folks who have joining us. Good afternoon, good morning, depending upon where you are in the country or around the world today. My name is Jim Adams, and I'm the Vice President of Worldwide Channels here at Adlumin. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us for this special session. This is another in our ongoing series of monthly thought leadership sessions that Adlumin is presenting for our partners, our integrators, resellers, and MSPs, and hopefully you'll be attending these in the future if you've not attended these in the past. And we're providing a lot of educational value to help you in your selling and supporting efforts for your customers. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we go into the agenda. This session is being recorded, so we're going to be distributing a replay of the session to all of our attendees after, if you want to replay the session and or share it with others in your organization who were not able to attend. Also, everybody is on mute to start with. If you have a question, please put the question into the chat window or the question window that you should see on your dashboard. And we're going to have a Q&A session at the end of the event. And then finally, again, this is another one of our monthly webinar series. Be on the lookout for invitations for upcoming sessions that hopefully add a lot of value to your selling efforts. So with that, let's go into the agenda. Our guest speaker today is Robert Johnston. Rob is the CEO of Adlumin, and he's going to be talking about the recent SolarWinds breach and giving us some perspective as to what that breach was all about, what actually happened there, what were some of maybe the key missteps or the things that could have been done differently, but more importantly, for you, our partners and solutions providers and MSPs, what are the things that we can learn from that breach that we can take away and integrate into our business, into our practice that can help us be more value to our customers? We'll also take a look at the Adlumin Advantage program. For those of you who are not yet Adlumin partners, we invite you to join the program, and we're going to talk a little bit about what the program includes and how you can participate and take advantage of some of the benefits. We'll have a call to action, kind of summarizing and some of the next steps that you can take. And of course, at the end of the session, we're going to be doing a raffle for a $100 Amazon gift card for everybody who stays to the end. So please, we invite you, encourage you to stay to the end of the session. So with that, I'm going to introduce Rob Johnston. Again, Rob is the CEO of Adlumin, and Rob has a really interesting background. He has been in the military, he's been with the NSA, he's done a lot of work in cybersecurity, and has a tremendous amount of credibility and experience in this space. So before we even get into the details of the SolarWinds breach, Rob, by the way, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Could you give us an overview of your background and some of the cool things that you've done in your career that you think might be helpful for the rest of the audience to learn about?
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. You know, I have had an interesting career growing up in the security community. So I started in security in 2008 when I graduated from the Naval Academy. with a degree in computer science. I went into the Marine Corps. I served in the Marine Corps for 8 years. Most of my time in the Marine Corps was spent in working in security, working in communications, either in satellite telecommunications or in actually security itself. I did have some interesting opportunities there to include, positions as the director of the Marine Corps Red Team. We were running penetration tests against the classified and unclassified networks that are run by the Marine Corps, supporting the end warfighter. And then I spent some time at the National Security Agency doing intelligence collection and incident response. Most notably there, I ran the investigation of the Russian APT-29, a Russian SVR breach of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I left government service or military service, and I went into the private sector. I spent a little time at a firm called CrowdStrike. I ran the East Coast incident response for CrowdStrike, and then I got to do a lot of breach investigations there. I did all incident response investigations, breach investigations. I did quite a number there. Most notably, of course, was the investigation of the breach into the Democratic National Committee and the U.S. national elections in 2016. So I spent a considerable amount of time, doing incident response. I left CrowdStrike. I started my own firm, really looking at taking advantage of serverless technology to be able to enhance or transcend the security marketplace, which is where we kind of sit today.
So Rob, really cool background. NSA, Democratic breach. Did you know, or did you run across Ed Snowden when you were at the NSA?
He was there. I think Ed Snowden was 2012. I was there around that time. I mean, that was the time I was there. No, I did not know
Okay.
Edward Snowden. I believe he was at NSA Hawaii, but I was there during that time, and in the immediate aftermath of that, which was an interesting time to be at NSA too, because all the the internal security measures, they really started to crack down on those, on the internal piece. But that was right around my time. Absolutely, I was there.
And I can imagine they were cracking down. So great background. You did some really interesting things in the NSA, in the military. So why Adlumin? What drove you to start this business, this company, and what was it that you were trying to get accomplished?
So whenever you're talking about on entrepreneurship in that way, I always put it into kind of two distinct buckets, right? You've got just strictly the business side. Everything does all fundamentally start with an idea, a concept, or a business model of some kind, or maybe you don't quite have a business model yet. It's just a concept. But to start a business is a big leap. You have to be at the right place in your life, the right appropriate appetite for risk. So there's that piece of it, and then there's always the fundamental idea. And at the time I was looking to start my business, there was a big focus on user behavior analytics and kind of the outbreak of serverless computing and serverless technologies was just being released into the marketplace at that time. It was brand new. It was not really being used. It's still today it's being used more today, but not really being used by a whole lot of platforms today. And so I wanted to leverage this serverless computing technology to create unprecedented scalability and pricing transparency for customers in the security space, for the principal reason that in a serverless model, there's a couple of things that traditionally have been limitations to platforms in the past that serverless computing allows you to break away from that. And there's two principal ones, or two main ones, and that is events per second, no events per second limitation, and then of course data quantity or data volume. Those two items, essentially processing and storage, become commodities in a scalable architecture. Using a data lake, storage becomes a commodity. Using serverless processing, processing becomes a commodity. And when you commoditize something like that, you can remove it, or at least reduce it from pricing, and it's allowed us to approach the marketplace in a much different way with a much different pricing model. Second, we wanted to create a platform that focused on access using analytics, data analytics, in order to approach access in a very automated way. Whenever you're talking about people accessing systems and resources, network shares and system resources, you're really at a broad sense, talking about a tremendous amount of log and event data that's occurring there. And really, the only way to measure that much data is using a data analytics solution, or just kind of a computer in general was built for that. So that was a big focus of how we were going to build what we were doing from an analytics perspective. So in kind of conclusion, building a solution from the ground up using cloud native technology. I've always thought that if you have an on-prem solution, you're not really truly taking advantage of all the economies of scale that come with cloud. For example, you can't just take an application that runs in a server on-prem and ram it into an EC2 and then have that and then have that EC2. That's not really cloud native. It's not taking advantage of the best aspects of cloud technology. So we've delivered that cloud native solution from the ground up.
So we're going to talk about the Adlumin product and technology a little bit later in our discussion, and it's kind of the cloud native part and the serverless technology. I think that's going to be really interesting to get into. But let's talk about the breach, the SolarWinds breach. So a number of us saw you being interviewed on MSNBC when you were talking about what actually happened and what were some of the things that we should be aware of. So could you give us a sense of what happened? What actually occurred, and what were some of the either key missteps or the deficiencies that allowed this to become an event? And was it as dangerous as we have been hearing in the news?
Yep, absolutely. So the actor that's responsible for the SolarWinds breach and the subsequent breaches that occurred after that is an actor called APT29. It lines up to Russian SVR. For those that don't know, the Russian SVR is the principal foreign intelligence agency of the Russian Federation. It's essentially akin or like our Central Intelligence Agency. It's their version of our CIA. Subsequently, this is also the same actor that broke into the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff that I ran the incident response for. They are one of the two actors that broke into the Democratic National Committee and had a hand in shaping the 2016 U.S. elections. And so it's definitely an actor that I've seen over a period of time, that I've been intimately familiar with. What they were able to do was compromise the supply chain. They're calling it a supply chain attack, and probably rightfully so. But really, you need to separate the breaches into two, distinct categories. You do have, the supply chain attack that occurred at SolarWinds, or the compromise of the SolarWinds company, and then the compromise of the supply chain. And then you have the subsequent breaches that occurred beyond that, which are more traditional, installing malware and then letting things develop from there. And so they were able to compromise, the SolarWinds supply chain using something that they now call Sunspot. It essentially sensed when a build was taking place. So when SolarWinds was building a piece of software to then, as an update, to then be distributed to the clients that they have across the globe. And it inserted some files and it inserted some malware, trojanizing that, that legitimate update. Now, what happens when you do that? Because they were able to compromise the build process, it was a legitimately signed file. It means their digital certificate was used to sign the update, which usually, digital certificates are, a trust stamp, right? They're a marker.
Seems harmless. Yeah.
Yeah, seems harmless. It's a way that you mark a file and say, only SolarWinds will have this digitally signed file. So therefore, you should trust it. And so compromising that was, of course, extremely deadly in this particular case.
But were there, as you kind of dissect it, was there something specific that was missed? Was there a back door that was open? Or was there, the inability to have the level of visibility required? Was there something that could have been done to potentially mitigate it or prevent it?
There are two things that stand out at this, and I'm going to kind of push aside the breach of SolarWinds because, frankly, like an end user, community bank or something like that does not have the ability to control, and it's not within their sphere of influence to control what goes on at SolarWinds itself. There's two things
Right.
that I definitely noticed that occur at the affected, the end user, the endpoint organization that has been affected. And the first is commonly security tools live outside of the rules. And what I mean by that is they are considered systems of record. They oftentimes don't have the same security tools as like a teller's desktop computer. They may or may not have antivirus. You may or may not log in with a domain account, a low privileged domain account. You might log in to that machine with a privileged local account. They don't have the same security tools, and they do tend oftentimes to be overlooked, to live outside the rule set of the organization. And the most common reason for that is because these IT security administrators want to be able to easily do their jobs with as few obstacles to getting that job done as possible. The second piece is, vendor updates, are always considered known good, right? And there's no validation of a vendor update. And you as an IT admin, you probably would not validate that, right? You would just download the software and assume that it is good. So it is the combination of kind of both of these factors that I think contribute to the slow detection of this particular malware propagating. Now, I do want to point out there's been a lot of talk in the news, even some members of Congress saying like this is an act of war. I think just fundamentally people need to take a step back off of the ledge and realize that this is a failed. You need to look at it like a failed intelligence operation from the perspective of the Russians. Like, what an intelligence opportunity that they had, and had being past tense, right? That intelligence opportunity is now gone, and it was an incredible opportunity because they would have gained access, to a large number of organizations where they would have wanted to collect intelligence from those organizations, and hopefully, that capability is now gone, or at least they're on the run because everyone else is on the hunt. And so that creates a unique situation for the Russian SVR. So it is a failed intelligence operation. I kind of marry it up to the Russian cyber version of America's Bay of Pigs in Cuba, right? It's just they had this incredible opportunity, like we had this incredible opportunity to overthrow the communist Cuban government. They had this incredible opportunity to collect all sorts of intelligence, but they just moved too quickly. They moved too carelessly. They used bad judgment. It was too broad in its distribution. Too many opportunities for people to find out, and they got caught. And now that intelligence operation is in shambles.
Interesting. So you don't think there are any long-term impacts or effects based upon what happened here because it was discovered in a timely, well, I'm not even sure it's that timely, but it was discovered before any significant damage.
No, there will definitely be damages, and part of that is how our system, our system works. Now, the damages, the only true way to measure damages is by cost, right? How much money is this going to take? And in our system, private entities are responsible for their own security. And if you are affected by this, you're going to have to, there's going to be a cost to remediating this and fixing this. And I don't think the true cost of that will be known for quite a long time. One of the ways that you can gauge that is actually by data on the insurance claims. right? And that's usually how a lot of people do it. They have, breach insurance, business interruption insurance. They'll take a look at the insurance claims like many, 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 many months down the road and find out how many, how much dollar, what's the dollar value that this breach truly cost as the root cause. So there are damages from it, and an 8-month period of time, which is about what it was. There is enough time to steal a lot of stuff, right? But in the grand scheme of intelligence collection, like at a macro level, 8 months is not a long period of time. There's a lot of things they could have taken in that period of time, but it's not a long period of time. When you develop these accesses in the intelligence community, you don't just want to develop them and keep them for 8 months. You want to keep them for 8 years, right? Forever, as long as you can, right? And so, having a complete intelligence operations blow up in your face in 8 months is, from my experience, would be considered an intelligence failure.
So are there lessons learned or tools that our customers and partners should be using as a result of what we went through, and kind of the best practices that can and should be employed?
So there's a low expectation of detection from the supply chain portion of this attack, right? It is not within an end user customer sphere of influence to affect or influence or detect anything that's going on at the parent company. There's two places that organizations, I think, really needed to focus on their tool sets, on what they were doing. The first is the software component, anti-malware, right? Noticing bad software that is being introduced that's behaviorally doing bad things. And the second is post-exploitation activities. Because this was so highly targeted, and the malware set was only going to affect certain organizations, at the end of the day, like an attacker cannot get around the post-exploitation activities. The data that they want to steal is not on the SolarWinds system, right? It is on, file shares, it's in email, it's in all those other locations. It's not on the SolarWinds system. So they must conduct post-exploitation activities in order to get what they want, right? Now, their first foot in the door can certainly be SolarWinds. And like we discussed previously, it lives outside of the rule sets very often. It's unprotected very often. So there's a lot of things that are very appetizing about being able to compromise that particular system. But if you had to focus your tool sets, or what tool sets should I have deployed, it's in those two areas, software and post-exploitation activities. The second thing that it really does reinforce is the need for long-term retention capabilities, right? And that data needs to be readily accessible. In a cloud sense, this is a play for data lakes, right? And data lakes play a big role in that piece. And so that long-term retention capability is 100% necessary. And these things are going to pop up more and more over the years. Like, it's going to happen that 8 months into some kind of data breach that is at this scale, that it becomes known to the world that this occurred or this happened. That is, they're going to pop up, they're going to occur, and you essentially have to be able to go back and say, okay, got it, this bad thing happened, but now I need to go back, X number of months or a year or whatever that number is to you, and say, did I communicate with this IP, or did I, execute this file, or what, who logged in where. So, being able to have that long-term search horizon, I think, is very important, especially when something this stealthy kind of pops up, 8 months into its execution, and now you've got to go roll back the tape 8 months. Traditionally, this kind of data storage has been very cost prohibitive, I think, for most companies, until the cloud came along. And in the cloud, and using cloud native technologies and data lakes, it's definitely it's 100% a possibility. So that is the technology of today that allows you to implement such a feature at such a low cost.
So that seems like a perfect segue then into introducing Adlumin. So tell us about Adlumin, both the company and the platform. What does Adlumin do?
So Adlumin is a security, compliance, and analytics platform that's built on a serverless architecture, being able to remove events per second or remove data storage and data quantity from that pricing equation, allowing a very transparent, very hyper scalable platform for our customers to use. We do integrate data lake technology, allowing you to achieve that long-term search and long-term storage horizon. At Adlumin, we have 3 pillars to our platform. And the first pillar is network health and compliance. So how do we proactively improve a network's security and compliance standards with a special focus? We do have a special focus on highly regulated organizations being like financial sector or healthcare or insurance. And so that network health
needs, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep, the key compliance needs that exists there. And the reason we do this is we don't want to do incident response either. So if we can get out ahead of that and improve the network by monitoring access controls and hardening access controls and finding places where things are misconfigured, we can get out ahead of it. The second is that detection and artificial intelligence piece. How do we funnel down billions of events into the handful of events that represent threats, malfunctions, and IT operations failures that may exist at that parent organization? So a good example of this is like if you have a firewall of some kind. Well, that firewall probably puts off 1,000 critical detections a day. Well, what happens when you get 1,000 critical detections a day? Turns out none of them become critical, right? It's an incredible signal to noise problem. Now magnify that across every single tool that you may have. And so we do a lot of work on the data science side in order to produce detections and score their relevancy to a threat, a malfunction, or an IT operations failure, using a data science method, essentially finding, the critical that's not like the other criticals, the critical that you may or may not have ever seen before. So being able to do that, really kind of allows you to tackle the signal to noise problem. And then finally, I touched on this a little at the beginning, that log storage and data retention, integrating that data lake technology, have an automatic abstraction layer. So when you run a query to search across hot data, you're running that similar query to search across the data lake as well at the same time. So we're able to provide really, really good query horizons, past a year if you wanted to. It just all depends on, the price you're willing to pay. So we're able to really do a good job at providing a really long-term storage horizon using data lakes.
So that would have been a key component, or maybe an unfair question, but could Adlumin have helped mitigate some of the impact? And I want to keep going back to the SolarWinds read, but could those customers who had Adlumin been in maybe a better position than those who did not?
Absolutely, they could have been in a better position. A very small portion of the actual companies that were affected by the breach were actually chosen, the elite few that were chosen for post-exploitation activities. The Russian SVR did have some controls on that. For every organization that was compromised, I think it's at less than 1% of those organizations were actually chosen for post-exploitation activities. So they, there was some targeting, associated with that. There are 2 places that Adlumin really could have helped. The first is, the integration or the integration of analytics on post-exploitation activities. We do a lot of that. User and entity behavior analytics is where we got our start, and we have a lot of focus, analytic focus, using algorithms that are focused on access. Who's accessing what? Who's accessing what shared drive? Who's accessing what system? How are they interacting with Azure Cloud and Azure AD? We've got a lot of analytics components that are focused on that, which is post-exploitation activities. The second piece is, of course, the malware software component. We integrate with all the EDR platforms, all the AV platforms, bringing in that data, finding the critical events that actually matter and make a difference there. And so we're able to detect anomalies in all of those different independent log streams and reducing that signal to noise ratio that may exist in firewalls and things like that. The last piece is that data lake it does help to be able to retroactively look, a really long storage horizon. Have I ever communicated with this IP, or have I ever communicated with this address? And so that is a big help, and we are able to provide that at Adlumin. So it helps both, in the immediate near-term detection probability, and it also certainly helps in the retroactive analysis, being able to come to one key point, in one key system that's taking data feeds from everything that you own, and being able to accomplish, not only just a real-time detection capability, but also, a robust search function in the background.
So clearly, our partners, our integrators, VARs, MSPs who are in this call can benefit from technologies like Adlumin. What are some of the things that you think are important for them to know about, and that they should be thinking about as it relates not just to the SolarWinds breach, but some of the capabilities you just mentioned with Adlumin? What are some of the things that they should focus on?
We do have a lot of capabilities in Adlumin that I think are specifically geared towards our partners and our service providers. One is, the multi-tenancy aspect of this. They're able to view both all of their aggregate customers below them and each customer individually in one single platform. They can run searches across their aggregated customer sets, detections across their aggregated customer sets. The multi-tenancy aspect of that was built specifically with them in mind. The second piece is our Overwatch service. So we do sell a fully managed compliance detection and response service that can go with our platform, but the product can also be sold independently, where you can start your own service delivery option using the multi-tenancy, or we call them the Abacus features within the Adlumin platform. This allows things like white labeling. It allows things like multi-tenancy views, multi-tenancy analysis, as well as providing your customers with tenancy access to the platform itself. And so there's a lot of infrastructure associated with that. There's a lot of engineering associated with that. But I think from a partner perspective, Adlumin does a really good job of providing a multi-tenancy operating tool that you're able to take care or take advantage of all of the cloud ecosystem advantages that are there in one single platform, and then easily distribute that and easily install it among your client base.
So clearly that's important for our partners. So any key takeaways or any advice that you would give to our partners relative to either Adlumin or your years of experience in cybersecurity?
When I look at this, if I had to pick one thing that should be a focus, it's definitely you can always get a better widget that does detection. You can always get a better analytic algorithm that does this or that, or these things are constantly changing and constantly improving. But the thing that should be set up, and it takes a long time to store this information, is that data lake component. Being able to retroactively look as long as you need to feel safe is something that has to be set up and running for a long period of time. You can't have a year's worth of data until you've produced a year's worth of data, right? And so getting that black box running, I think, is very important. It's very important to do in the near term, because it takes so long to accumulate, and it's not easy to set up either. And so to get that executing as fast as possible is probably kind of step one. As far as detection algorithms and things like that, they're always changing, they're always dynamic. You can always put a new whiz bang in place at any given time. But if I had to focus on one, it would be getting that log storage component truly and making it accessible immediately, and get that black box rolling is I think very important and brought to light in this particular case.
Outstanding. Rob, you bring so much credibility to this space, and as a resource for our partners. I know we have a lot of our partners are on this call today, and I think the experience that you have, but also what you've done to try to architect this product for a market that they can go after, and to give them the tools that are going to make their efforts more valuable, are hugely appreciated. So thank you very much. We appreciate what you did for the company, and also what you're doing on this session today. which I think is a good segue to our partners and our partner programs. So we have some folks on the call today who are not currently Adlumin partners. And so I think it's important to talk about what the partner program is and how they can take advantage of it if they choose to. So we really built our partner program on three major pillars, which is ease of doing business, profitability, and the ability to add additional value-added services to their efforts to make you a more valued provider to your customer. So we have an open access program, which means we have no certification requirements, no training requirements, no cost of investment or revenue requirements. You can become an Adlumin partner and take advantage of all of the benefits from day one. So we provide free training and free technical support and support of POVs and POCs for your customers. We have a number of different models. So we have a resale model, as Rob mentioned. We have a 24/7 SOC, which you can sell our SOC service, or you can build your own managed offer and around our SIM platform, and or build your own SOC service around our SIM platform. And we have the ability to monetize that business in a few different ways. On our program side, we've got a deal registration program that allows you to get significantly enhanced discounts, so really rich margin on the product sale alone. And then you can wrap around your services, but really rich margins on the product sale alone, as well as protecting you in that deal so that no other provider can get those margins that for deals that you bring to us. Co-development funds, joint marketing opportunities, a recurring revenue stream, the ability to do renewals with your customers, and then use our technology as a land and expand and look for technology adjacencies. So we're going to have a call to action in a minute, and we'll tell you how to become an Adlumin Advantage partner and join our program. So with that, let's move on to the next one. Next slide, if you could. Couple of things, kind of takeaways from this. We really invite you to learn more about our Advantage program and the platform itself and the technology. We're going to give you a link at the end where you can contact us to both learn more about the product, schedule a demo, and talk to one of our channel managers about the Adlumin Advantage program and how we can help you monetize this technology in your offer. And then for those of you who are interested, on our website, of course, we have our partner tab, and you can apply to become a partner. And then, of course, we want you to join these sessions in the future. So next, if we could move on, I think we're ready for a Q&A session. And I'm just going to check real fast to see if there's any questions. I have one question, Rob. Let me try to paraphrase this. The SIM market is a very crowded market, a lot of players out there. What distinguishes Adlumin or sets you apart? I guess, Rob, what are the key differentiators maybe that Adlumin brings that some of the other competitors may not? And while Rob is getting ready to answer that question, if anyone has other questions, just please put them in the chat or the question box on the control panel.
Sure, absolutely. So I'll put them in two different buckets. The first is, that engineering component, using the serverless architecture, not pricing off event per second, not pricing off of data quantity and data volume that you send it. We just have a firm fixed price per device, where a firewall is treated the exact same as like a laptop and desktop, even though the amount of data that's produced by both of those platforms is vastly different. The second piece is, a lot of industry focus. Network health and compliance is commonly a portion of the platform that is not included in traditional SIMs. We have a very huge or very large focus in specifically highly regulated environments. For example, FFIEC's cybersecurity assessment tool, NCUA's, the National Credit Union Association's ASET platform, the automated cyber security examination toolkit. These are both, examination tools and audit tools that, that these banks and credit unions across the United States are supposed to be using. those are built in and automatically functional inside of the Adlumin platform. So we take data in from the environment, are able to fuel compliance reports and reporting standards. The second thing is we've got some patented technology. We're the only ones that can do anomaly detection on mainframe systems. This is a big help in healthcare and in finance. The reason it's a big help in healthcare and finance is because every core banking system, almost every core banking system on the planet, runs off of an old mainframe system. The reason for that is high availability. So they're all running on AS400s, HPUX systems, AIX systems. We own the patents that allow us to do anomaly detection on core banking platforms. Also, on the same token, a lot of healthcare systems also run on these old, these old mainframe technologies. So Adlumin, if you want to integrate those old mainframe technologies into the overarching security and compliance ecosystem, legally speaking, we're the only game in town to be able to do that, which is important. Although these systems may be few and far between at these organizations, they are often the most important computer systems. For example, a bank is not a bank, or $8 billion in market value does not exist without that core banking platform actually being present. Everything else is just chaff. It's just another computer. But that core banking platform is what makes a bank, or it's what makes a credit union a credit union. It is the most critical system, and as far as monitoring it for anomalies, Adlumin is the only one that can do that.
And that patent is really a huge differentiator because, as you mentioned, for all of our partners who are focusing on financial services and banking, credit, nobody else can do that. So that's a huge differentiator. And our compliance reporting, the one-touch compliance reporting in highly regulated industries, really it kind of sets us apart, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Another question. Rob, you mentioned log retention. How long can we store logs? And is it searchable and reportable, the data?
Yes, you could. So it is searchable and reportable. You can store it as long as you like. We have the ability to kind of let it go as long as you like. It's just a matter of cost. Typically for a bank, just a normal bank, it's a year. I would say that's the most typical option that's being chosen. If you're a New York bank and you're under DFS regulations, it is 3 years, right? If you're doing something in the FINRA space, it's 7 years. I mean, there are different requirements, but Snapshot 365 is our tool to help you meet any storage and encryption requirement that you may require. Storage horizon that you from a compliance perspective you require.
Got it. Okay, I'm just going to check. I don't see any more questions in the question or the chat. Okay, last call, questions or chat. Okay, great. We're going to move on to the raffle again. Rob, thank you very much for participating. We really appreciate it, and I know our partners got a lot of value from it. So now we're going to do a quick raffle for a $100 Amazon gift card. Everyone on the call has a number associated with them. I'm just going to spin a wheel here to get a number. And Dan Schuler, Scholar. I'm really butchering your name, Dan. Schuyler. Dan, you are the winner of a $100 Amazon gift card. Congratulations. We have your email address, and we'll be sending out your gift card. So with that, thank you, folks. Again, we appreciate your taking time out of your busy days to join us in these sessions. We're going to have another session coming up in February, and we'll send out the invitation to join us for that. We're also going to send you a recording of the session so you can play it back again and or share it with others in your organization, as well as a link to become an Adlumin partner to learn more about the technology or to schedule a demonstration. With that, our session is over. Again, we appreciate your time and we appreciate your being an Adlumin partner. Have a great day. We'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye now.